All right, I'm here with Brad Rowe, the electrician.
How's it going, Joel? Thank you very much for having me on.
Body worker, bodybuilder, but I always tell everyone you're much more than that. I mean, I really think you embody mind, body, soul, abundant mindset. The more I've gotten to talk to you and get to know you, I'm just super impressed. And I think you and I are both on this journey of higher consciousness, and not a lot of people are talking about it, and I think they're missing the boat. So hopefully we'll get into that.
Yes.
But I wanted to just kind of start off for people that don't know you and know about you, like kind of talk about, being a professional bodybuilder. I think that is something that not a lot of people understand, like what you actually have to go through to get there. And I'm just curious for you, like, was there a day you realized, like, yeah, this is what I want to commit my life to? Because I remember for me, just personally, when I was 18 years old, I wanted girls to like me. I wanted to change who I was, and if I could change my body, I thought that'd be one great way to do it. And so I remember I got a subscription to Muscle and Fitness magazine. I had it for like 3 years, and I would read everybody's. I knew everybody. Lee Priest, Ronnie Coleman, Flex Wheeler was like my favorite, and I would just mimic all their exercises and go to the gym. That's how I got started. Right. But yeah, I'm just curious. But you obviously kept going. I didn't go that far. So yeah.
How did my start come? So I was actually an athlete. I was a Division I football player. And I was in graduate school. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. That was kind of my big goal. Lifting had always been a part of my life because as an athlete, I trained to be the best athlete I could. And I was the Ultimate Warrior one year for Halloween. And it was my MySpace profile picture. And some fitness modeling agency reached out and they're like, hey, would you be interested in fitness modeling? And I was like, I was dating this girl at the time who desperately wanted to be a model. And I watched her waste thousands of dollars doing all these shoots and nothing come to it. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a model. I'm not going to waste money. They're like, no. Like, we can book you stuff and you can get paid for it. I'm like, okay. So I took some photos, sent them in. Next thing I know, I booked my first muscle and fitness photo shoot within like 2 days.
Wow.
And then a week later, I booked this big 5-year-long GNC ad campaign. So all these things start happening, and he tells me, he's like, you should think about competing in a bodybuilding show because it can give you a little more exposure. We can get you in more magazines, maybe potentially get a sponsorship. So I'm home. I just finished grad school, working construction because I was too poor to even apply to medical school. I needed to save up like $5,000 just to get my applications in. So I'm like, screw it. Let's see what happens. So I start getting ready for a show. Next thing I know, I land a sponsorship before I even stepped on stage. And all these things started happening. And I got contacted by a guy named Ed Connors. And Ed Connors was the founder of Gold's Gym Franchising. So he bought the original Gold's Gym with partners, and they turned that one gym into 540 gyms around the world. Wow. But Ed was very intricate in bringing along so many professional bodybuilders and professional wrestlers throughout their career. He just had an eye for talent. So he reached out to me on MySpace and was like, hey, I'd love to fly you out to California, show you what the scene's about out here. So I took him up on his offer. He flew me out here. I won the bodybuilding show that I came out here to do and kind of fell in love with LA. So I went back and told my family, I was like, hey, I'm going to pass up medical school. I'm going to give myself a 3-year window of opportunity and let's see what happens. I'm just going to go for it. So sold off all my shit, hopped on a one-way flight out here to LA.
What'd they say?
They thought I was crazy,
Where'd you grow up at? Where
New Hampshire. I grew up in New Hampshire. Yeah. I grew up in a very, very blue collar family. My mom was a factory worker. Dad was a dreamer, as a horse trainer, chasing his dream. So I was really one of the first college educated people in my family. So when I said, hey, I'm turning down medical school to go pursue this, they were like, are you crazy? Like you have this consistency, you're intelligent. Why are you doing this? But I just wasn't passionate about the medical side of things at that point. When I was going through school, I was very passionate about it. But then once I started interning with all these physicians, they were just telling me, they're like, run. This is when things in the insurance world started getting bad, and they just became slaves to the hospitals, slaves to the insurance companies, and they just kept telling me that, like, you're no longer of service to your patients. They're just a number. And so that really kind of turned me off into the medical space. So I said, the hell with it. I take this opportunity. And here I am. I turned pro a couple years later, and I was very fortunate to use my bodybuilding career to kind of build upon and grow a name for myself and build a strong personal training business. A lot of marketing. I was a guy that tried to stay in shape all year long and take advantage of always being that guy that's ready for photo shoots, doing a lot of commercial acting. So bodybuilding for me was kind of it fell in my lap. and it just fulfilled that competitive desire in me is always being an athlete. So it's kind of funny when, people that they grow up since they were like 8 years old dreaming to be a bodybuilder, and I'm just like, it just kind of fell in my lap, it just kind of got here. But that's life, when opportunities open doors, you just got to fly through them.
Yeah. So for you, I know that actually surprised me. Like, yeah, it just fell in my lap. So there, but still, like, the grind to like put on muscle and do it in a certain way. Like, and I just remember from like pumping iron, watching Arnold, like there's so much science and dedication to the way you eat, the way you train. And then like, oh, well, this bicep is peaking like 1 millimeter than this one. I mean, can you talk about, yes, as much as I'm sure it wasn't always, just sunshine and rainbows,
right?
But like, can you talk about that flip side where that people probably don't see? Yeah, you have an amazing body, but
right. I think what drew me to bodybuilding was that ultimate dedication, because I've always been a very, very intense person my entire life. Like, I just, we can get into this, but like childhood upbringings, how it just makes you a particular way, but I always had to be the best at everything I did. I always had to apply myself the most, and that was my way of receiving validation in life.
Yep.
So I've always been very, very driven, very OCD, very organized, and bodybuilding just filled into every one of those things that I dealt with in life. I've been a Division I football player. I've done a lot of other different athletics, and bodybuilding is by far the most dedicated sport out there, because it's not even just about the 2 hours in the gym that you're training, that you're pushing yourself beyond you could believe. I mean, I was known for my intensity, and that's what I loved. Like, the biggest compliment in the world you could ever give me was tell me that I was a hard worker. It wasn't about how I looked or anything like that. All I wanted to hear was that I was a hard worker, and I did everything under the sun to prove that I was the hardest working person out there. So that's how I got my thrill. Like, I loved, you go through phases of having to put on muscle. So it's what we call off season, and you're just gorging yourself full of food. They clean calories. I mean, some guys do some dirty calories, but like, you're trying to eat like 7,000 calories a day from like chicken, rice, veggies, whole eggs. And it's just so consuming, and you have to get your meals in consistently, and you have to recover. There is no drinking, no partying, because that's all going to affect your recovery process. So you're never going to be the athlete that you can be. And then when it comes down to the dieting phase, you get to points that you're trying to drive your body fat below 4% body fat, which is like, you can't even function. Like, your brain shuts down. Your body is just in like pure survival mode. And that's what I love the most. Like, I loved it when I was the most miserable. Like, I would train 10, 12 clients a day, being in prep. Most guys, like bodybuilders, they can't even get out of bed the entire day. And I thrived on how hard that lifestyle was. And that's what kind of fulfilled me. So, but as you said, there's so much knowledge and so much nutritional and biomechanical information that goes into that. Like, us as bodybuilders, we kind of get deemed as, like the dumb jock, the stupid bodybuilder, but truly, to be at the top of your game, there's a lot of very, very, very intelligent human beings in this space, because we are the original biohackers. It's like, how do you take this body and bring it to superhuman levels, and be able to maintain that and be consistent with it. So that's kind of why my passion for bodybuilding was there, because I had a passion for the human body as well. How hard can we push ourselves? What are the limits that we can push ourselves? And so I was kind of my own little test dummy. That's
amazing. You actually relished in the suffering.
Right. Yeah. I had that part, that mindset, that Northeast mindset where if you weren't miserable, you weren't doing it right in life. So the more miserable I was, I felt like the more I was accomplishing in life. And that came with every aspect of my life.
So interesting. Because I think I'll be curious to know now as I think we all go through evolutions. I always tell people, they're like, oh, you change jobs or you do this. And I'm like, yeah, I think, almost every 10 years when I look back, I'm like, I've just gone through different evolutions and changes in my own life. And so for you, I'm sure, like we were just talking offline, like the David Goggins mentality, right. Like, yeah, bring on the suffering. Like, that's when I go to that dark space, like that is actually the lightness.
Right.
but now and I think we'll talk about it a little bit later, is like now it's kind of almost flipped, right? It's like, I don't need to prove myself. I've done that. And now it's like the next evolution.
Needing to be soft for myself.
Yeah.
And needing to love myself and care for myself in ways that I never did. Because it was, we can go on about this, talking about how, childhood traumas and all these things that make us who we are in life. And I'm grateful for those things because it got me to where I need to be. But those things no longer serve me. And now it's about finding things that I love to fulfill myself with joy and let myself know that, hey, it's okay to just take a day and relax. You don't always have to be 100 miles an hour all the time. It's okay to just sit, breathe, smell, and enjoy the world as it is.
Do you see that a lot with the people that you train now, like the clients that you train? Because I'm sure a lot of them are coming to you for the Brad Rowe, like, just beat the shit out of me, Brad.
Right.
Like, I want that mentality. But do you actually see like them as like, yeah, I see where you're at in life, but like that's the old Brad would tell you this, but actually you need more softness. You need more of this in your life. I'm just curious, like, does that come up a lot? Or
there are, obviously there's different personality traits that you deal with. And one of the things that I've kind of want to help mentor is, people that do have that personality mindset, whether it's they're entrepreneurs or they're stuck in the corporate world where all they think is just grind, work, and they're not present for themselves. They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their loved ones. And so I kind of want to just help open people's eyes to, there is more to life than just, the accomplishments, the ticks on the boxes. It's about being present. And, unfortunately for some of us, it takes hitting rock bottom to get to that point. And, I was very, very blessed in my life that I was able to hit rock bottom early enough in my life that now I can take charge and I have the whole rest half of my life to truly enjoy and live it in a beautiful, meaning way.
Yeah, man. Can you talk about what that rock bottom was for you? I'm curious. I don't know what that is.
So I was married for over 5 years. I was with a woman for almost 10 years. Absolutely amazing woman. I was head over heels in love, but I was never present. I was this hyper-focused workaholic. I had anger issues, and not that I ever took them out on her, but I was just a very miserable, grumpy person because it's just what you were expected to be in life. And about 3 years,
if you weren't miserable too, like you said, you weren't working, you weren't accomplishing things.
Right. And in my mind, my way of being a good husband was being the ultimate provider. Was like, I'm going to work my ass off. You don't have to worry about working. I'll take care of everything. I'll do all the grocery shopping. I'll do all the cleaning. I'll do everything. You just live the life that you want to live. But I wasn't present. I wasn't there. And 3 years ago, she made that choice for both of our happiness. And she begged me to change, and I just, I was like, oh, when we have kids, I'll change. But then she was afraid to have kids with me because she was afraid that she was going to be basically just a single parent because I was always going to be on the go. I was never going to be present. I was never going to be there. My little temper tantrums, like I would drop a fork and like lose my shit, like just like whip a fork, but big things would never bother me. I was never abusive towards her or anything like that, but just these little things that would just spark me. So she left me, and it broke me. Truly broke me because obviously I was dealing with a lot of childhood traumas and things like that. So I had such an attachment type, issue with her. So when she left me, it was like I was worthless in life. I was unworthy. And so I went through, a good year and a half of like severe depression, probably 6 months of extreme suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate to have some amazing people in my life, and they introduced me to the world of plant medicine. And through my journeys, it helped me overcome a lot of my generational traumas, my childhood traumas, and just work through things that I've never been able to process in my life to bring me to who I am and where I am today. So I look back and I'm so grateful for the almost decade she gave me because she was a loving, supporting human. And I'm so grateful she made that choice because it forced this change upon me. And the biggest downside is she set a bar this high. So anybody else I ever date, like she was just such a good human that I'm like, oh, God damn it. So that's my story in a nutshell. What brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't love the tragedy, but I love it because I hear you, man. Like I am with I've been there, same thing, and I grew up with the same exact framework. Like my idea of like being a good husband was we'll just provide. And that's what I've done. And my wife and I have been on the brink of divorce many, many times. And she's told me, like, the word divorce, I always joke around, has come up many times in our life, but we've never been closest now. And it's just, it's been both of our parts. But for me, it's been consistently going back and asking myself, what am I not doing? And she has been the best person, as you know, to show those blind spots. I can hire the best life coach and all these other coaches. She always jokes, you should be paying me this money, because like you're the one, like, I do it for free on a daily basis. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes I just can't hear it from you. Right. But you're totally right. And it's really cool to just see that you didn't take that answer that she was nudging you and telling you, like, you're not seeing this, but you didn't take it as you continued the same thing like me, going deeper. Let me keep asking myself why. Right. And then plant medicine, I haven't had a chance to do that, but I've heard nothing but people like ourselves and nothing but good things, and being able to, people talk about like this out of body of experience of like really getting, like, being able to see like the shadow self, right? Your shadow work, and be able to like actually work through it. So I'm really
it's it's an ability to just kind of fast track therapy by like years and years and years. I mean, I've been fortunate to journey many times, and worked with some really quality shamans and healers, and that's the important thing. Is you've got Joe Schmoes in Venice Beach, like, oh, come do ayahuasca, and I'm like, I don't know about the support system there. So I was blessed to be connected with some of the best healers in the world. I mean, people that work with like the likes of like Tony Robbins, like the big names, Mike Tyson, all these people. So I've even though the world seemed very crazy to me when I was first introduced, I was like, what, like, you drink this tea and you puke your brains out and like you shit yourself? I'm like, what? Like I was so like, that is not it. But when I was rock bottom, I was like, I will do anything to not feel like this anymore. And so it opened my eyes, and like I can remember moments where it literally brought me back to like an instant in my childhood where someone said something to me. Wow. Being like 7 years old and hearing someone say something to me, and it's like that triggered my response. Like, we want to talk about being a hard worker. It brought me back one time. So I had a unique upbringing. My dad is gay. He came out when I was like 2. Wow. And he was this dreamer, always wanted to be a horse trainer, but had an ego and could never keep a good job. So, we had no money whatsoever, living in horse stalls. And but on the weekends when I had to go visit my dad, it was, you're on the farm, and like as a young kid, like I had no life, I had no childhood. It was, I was on the farm working, or I was helping out with mom around the house, so I was a workaholic. Wow. But one cold morning, I remember it was like snowing, and I just didn't want to go to the farm. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and I was probably like 9 years old. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to go today. And I overheard his boyfriend at the time say, your son's lazy. He's never going to accomplish anything in life. Whoa. And I remember telling myself, I overheard that, I was like, no one is ever going to call me lazy ever again. And that was like my driving force of like, I'm just going to outwork everybody. But I didn't even remember that, until I took the medicine, and it brought me back. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is that moment. And so many instances on medicine, it's brought me back to particular moments in my life that I've been able to process what happened and work through them in order to overcome, whatever the traits that they created in my life, to be better and be able to show up for myself. Wow.
So for plant medicine, because there's so much out there, you're talking about ayahuasca has been the most, I guess, beneficial for you? If you're allowed to say.
I've done, I know
a lot of people I've talked to on the podcast have done ketamine, microdosing LSD, and feel free to share whatever you want to share. But I know there's a lot of different ones out there, and I'm always interested, which one was most beneficial. But it's really cool because there's another guy, Sean Wells, who wrote the book, The Energy Formula, and he's pretty well known in the biohacking community circle. And same thing, he told me plant medicine has been transformational for me, Joel. So it's been really
everything. I've journeyed with ayahuasca about 11 times. And I've seen a lot of transformation there. By the way, by the 11th time, do you feel like, oh yeah, like it, like, because I'm always thinking like I got to peek my brains out and do all this stuff, but you feel like it's you're unraveling the layers, like right? You're an artichoke. So like the term onion, we don't like to use. We like the term the artichoke. You're peeling off the layers to get to the heart. And that's what you're really trying to get to. You're really trying to get to your heart to show that you are worthy and you are loved. And that's what a lot of us all suffer from. We've never felt like we were meaningful enough. We never felt we were good enough. We hated ourselves, so it's peeling back all these layers to get to the heart. And not every experience is like that. Like I've had some of the most beautiful, blissful experiences on ayahuasca and other plant medicines. And then I've had ones that were like my latest plant medicine experience was on this medicine called San Pedro. And San Pedro is a cactus in the peyote family. And it's a heart opener. Like it was been one of my favorite things. I've done it multiple times where like you just drink this tea. It's a whole day long process and you just go out and connect to nature. Like it just makes you so present. Like the wind had never felt so satisfying. Like fire had never seen so tantalizing. You know, just the most basic things in life are so beautiful. Conversations with people are just so in depth and so beautiful. So my last experience in December was until it wasn't. And then it brought me through this major ego death that I had to experience. And I literally had to die by hemorrhaging everything out of me. And I broke every single blood vessel in my eyes. My eyes were completely red for 3 months.
Whoa.
Broke every blood vessel in my face, chest, shit myself, everything in front of all these people. I literally had to kill myself by hemorrhaging as hard as I could. But I overcame bulimia and some other things that I've been dealing with since childhood, you know? So it's like, I will gladly take a walk through hell for a day or for a couple hours in order to get the growth that I've come out of that. And then on the flip side, I've had some of the most beautiful experiences. Like one time I took ayahuasca and I don't remember a lot of my childhood. And all of a sudden that night, all these beautiful memories of my childhood started coming through. I started remembering all these moments with my mother, with my grandmother, with my friends, and it was just one of the most beautiful, loving experiences. So the medicine teaches you what it needs to. You know, you come in with intentions, but don't ever have expectations. Just be open and allow it to do whatever it does. And there are times where I wouldn't even drop in, and it's called a null experience. But again, like you learn something. I'm one of those people that I have a hard time being present. So I remember this one experience, every time my mind was racing, I was like thinking, this is when I was working with Tyson, he was getting ready for his fight, and I had a couple clients. I'm like thinking about all this stuff, and every time my mind started to wander, I'd like puke in my mouth a little bit. And it was just like the medicine be like, just be here. Just be here. Every time my mind wandered, I'm like, oh, just be here. So it's really unique how it works. And again, there's so many different modalities out there. I think starting with mushrooms is probably it's kind of like the marijuana, the intro into things. I'm a huge proponent of microdosing with marijuana. I mean, with mushrooms.
Yeah.
You know, it really that was one of the big things that helped spark like overcoming that severe depression that I was dealing with. And to this day, you know, I microdose probably like 5 days a week. It's just kind of like, I just take a little tiny pill and it just makes me feel a little lighter. You know, there's no psychedelic or anything to it. You're just like, the world seems less heavy.
Interesting.
You know, and I think we could all use that a little bit in life.
Yeah, man. So powerful. I know I was just talking to a friend who was an ex-police officer, had a traumatic incident happen, and going through the same journey, went on a 15-day retreat and ayahuasca and I think same thing, specialized microdosing pills, same thing. She said, just enough to just kind of like allow her to be more present and dole out some of the things. Yeah. Really, really cool stuff. I want to talk a little bit more about that, but you mentioned one thing I do want to talk about is Tyson. You mentioned that just right now, and you got a chance to work with one of the greatest in boxing history. It's got to be a surreal moment. I actually saw one of your posts that you posted on Instagram, and I just thought it's so funny, right? Because I hold you in such high esteem, and I know you're talented, and it was just so funny to read your post saying like, I was so scared to even go talk to this guy, and I'm thinking, you're Brad Rowe, like go talk to the guy, like why not, right? And but can you kind of talk about that experience and how that all came about, and then we can kind of even talk about the Neufit and the Neubie and the electric stim that you do.
So the same people that actually introduced me into the medicine world, they went into business with Mike and some other business ventures.
By the way, how serendipitous is that? Do you just go back and look at like when people talk coincidences and stuff? It's always about, I feel like, aligning. The more I've been on this planet, it's about aligning with your truth, you know, and the more I've aligned with my truth and been around good people, I just continue to find the they just come to me, so-called, right?
Energy matches energy.
Yeah.
You know, so they had went into business with Mike, and one day I'm at Gold's Gym training clients, and I get a text from my buddy Damien, and he's like, bring the Neubie down to this address. You got to hook up Mike Tyson and Dr. Dre. And I'm in the middle of a client. I'm like, it was like a long time client. I'm like, you mind if I go? I'm like, I'll give you a free session.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, sure. So I had a couple of the clients later on the day. So I go down to El Segundo, go walk into Mike's place, walk into Tyson Ranch, which is his old business, Tyson Ranch, the marijuana and podcasts and everything in there.
Yeah.
So Mike's sitting there on the couch smoking this huge joint. Dr. Dre is over like in the corner. I walk in, and this is when I was like full-fledged bodybuilding. I was in like off-season, like 275 pounds.
Wow.
And I walk in, and Mike's like, who brought this big-ass fucker in the room? And I'm like, oh, God. And he's like, what do you have there? Because I got the Neubie on the machine.
Yeah.
I got the cart with me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to help make your back better. I was like, all right. So I hooked Mike up.
Now, you already knew his back was messed up.
No, I didn't know anything was going on. Mike, Yeah, my buddy was just like, hey, Mike's back's, he texted me, Mike's back's screwed up. Can you just hook him up real quick?
Yeah.
So I brought him, I hooked him up, put him through a little, rehab session on his back and his shoulders, and just kind of hung out the whole rest of the day, like smoking weed with him. I canceled the rest of my clients. It was just like, once in a lifetime.
When is that going to happen again?
Right. Like, whatever. So the next morning, I thought that was like the end of it, one-off deal. The next morning, I guess Mike wakes up, and he was like, my back doesn't hurt so much. He's like talking to his wife. His wife's like, yeah, you remember that guy that brought the machine? He's like, what guy? What machine? She's like, you don't remember that huge Jack guy? He was so messed up on mushrooms and weed. And so I get a text. She's like, get a hold of him. Get him back. So I show up, and so I start working with him kind of consistently. Like we scheduled like 3 sessions a week. I'd come in and just work on his lower back, work on his shoulders. And this is right around the time that he decided that he wanted to come back and fight.
He had already made that up his mind, like he was going to.
No, this was kind of like he was kind of flopping around whether or not he was going to. And so finally he decided, all right, I'm gonna start training, until we find a good opponent. So one day I was like, Mike, let me hook you up before you go in the ring and just show you what you can do. So he's like, all right. So I put him through a whole protocol where I warmed up his shoulders, his legs, his hips, got everything firing efficiently. He jumped in the ring within the first like 45 seconds. His boxing coach stopped. He's like, what did you just do to him? He's like on like supercharged right now, like on overdrive. Mike's like, I feel so loose. I'm like, yeah, we got everything firing efficiently. We got everything primed up without you wasting time doing 100 jumping jacks and skipping rope and push-ups and all this other stuff, wasting your energy. We have made things fire more efficiently and primed, ready to rock like that without wasting energy. So he's like, all right, you're going to be here every day. So every day I showed up, and I'd warm him up before he'd go to box. And he was working with another trainer at the time, and the guy just bailed and went to Arizona. So I was like, hey, Mike, I'm like, you should try a workout on this. He's like, you can work out with it too? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it makes training so much more efficient, especially you're older. You don't want to get hurt. Like, so we'll just pad you up and put you through a workout. So I just built out this home gym here, and Mike's place was just in El Segundo, so down the street. So he came down. We got one workout in. And when he walked away, he's like, all right, you just became my full-time trainer, nutritionist, and rehab specialist. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this is like what world am I living in right now, So I was with Mike every day, twice a day, because I would go over to his boxing ring, warm him up. While he boxed, I came back and I'd train a couple more clients. He'd take a little break and come back and I'd train him. So I was with Mike twice a day, 6 days a week for almost over a year and a half going into his fight. Wow. And you want to talk about just what an amazing experience. Mike is such an in-depth and intelligent human being. He's so misrepresented into what we used to think, just Iron Mike, just this badass tough guy. But he's a very soft person, very loving, very kind. He is just so, like I said, so in depth. He loves ancient history, learning about all the great rulers of the world and kind of what made them tick, kind of like into like philosophy, everything. And he just starts rattling off all this stuff, and you're like, what? Like, that's coming out of you?
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, it was one of the most amazing experiences, getting to know just Mike as the human being, outside of Mike, who's arguably probably the most iconic person in the world. Like, we're not even talking about greatest boxer. We're talking about Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, like the most iconic people in the world. and just being around him, you know, like I can't tell you, like major celebrities just like would crawl on their hands and knees just to like be around him. So like every day at Tyson Ranch, everybody under the sun was in there. So I got to mingle and work with so many different people. It was a great networking experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. What, and I'm curious because I don't even know like what was going on with his lower back and stuff, because I saw that Roy Jones fight when he fought Roy, and he looked fantastic. Like he was just. I mean, did anybody? It was just herniations.
Yeah, he's some herniations.
But like that, like had kept him out for such a long time. Like
Yeah.
I don't think he wanted to fight. Here you go.
Because he was in so
it.
much pain. Yeah, because he couldn't move. He had to just spasm up all the time. Just, you know, herniations, they weren't bad enough to go in and surgically repair, but bad enough to, you know, when you get a flare up, you can't move for 5 or 6 days.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah. Is he any talks of him ever coming back again?
I think he's done. Yeah,
he's done.
Yeah. You know, everything comes down to money, and I think there was some financial stuff that came out of the people that put on the fight, and so he was just like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah,
I'm ready to just be an old man and do my podcast and enjoy life.
What I'm curious, you mentioned a lot of good things, and I was going to ask you, like, what did you walk away just like learning from him? Like you said, he's so deep, there's so much depth to him. Was there anything also like just his work ethic, or did you see like, man, here's a guy? Because how old is he? He's like
he was 53 at the time.
Yeah. It's funny as you're talking about him, I'm even taking away all the qualities of you. It's like, here's a guy who's, you know, has that warrior mentality, but also the soft side. Like,
right.
And I've never met him, but you always see him and you just think like, yeah, that's always been like who he is. He's always had like this soft side. Like, I'm just a kid. I just want to be loved.
Right. But I'm
also a killer.
Right.
Like, I know how to be a killer.
But that's, you know, because that's Mike's upbringing. You know, he's still very much this child that just needs love, like needs someone to nurture him, because he never had that. He had to grow up in such a rough environment, you know, that like his protection of his childhood self was being the baddest man on the planet. You know, and so it was just pure survival mode, and he's still trying to work through that, you know, and his life is just, again, constantly based off validation from others, you know.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, like the soft side of him, you know. So on the flip side of all that, I had so much amazing stuff going on. So I had that. I had just landed this huge investment deal with these people to open up this high-end performance and wellness center. Like literally was like within the same week. And then a week later is when my wife left me. And it's like I was on top of the world, and then it just crushed me, you know. So even my experience with Mike kind of sucked from a personal experience, because I was in such a bad place. I was so broken that I couldn't even really appreciate the moment that I was in being with Mike all the time. But you know, him and his wife were amazing. I can't tell you how many times we had to go to the Bahamas to film Shark Week, and they brought me along with them, and like just sitting on the couch and both of them hugging me, like all three of us are crying, like when I was just in like a deep broken moment. So like, you know, just seeing the human side of your idols, and seeing that, you know, they are caring, loving individuals, and that's one thing like me and Mike really kind of hit off a lot, because he's a Cancer and I'm a Cancer, and like cancers are just known like we need love, like we crave love, like it's just, you know, love's the only thing that matters. So like we'd hit it off, like talking about that all the time, how like love's the only thing that matters in our lives, and you know how vulnerable we are just to find love.
Yeah, dude, that's amazing. I'm just thinking about the whole moment of just, I mean, you know, I wanted to ask you, through all of this stuff is happening, and then your wife leaves you. Like, again, you're at the top of like the pinnacle of Brad Rowe. Like, I made it finally, right? I mean, you've obviously, I don't want to say like that, because you've made it in many other areas, but like, you know, this feeling of accomplishment, just success. And then it like just breaking, like through you getting broken. Now looking back, do you take any like lessons from that, or like, I start to see, and what I'm asking you is, through suffering and through like allowing it to happen, stop resisting it, Joel. Like, this is all part of the plan. Yeah. The more I start to open up to that, and I don't know if have you read this book, The Surrender Experiment? No. You'd love it. It's right up your alley. But like surrendering into what is happening, that is the only way through. But I'm curious for you, like, what have you found, or like, have you noticed now that you can reflect, you know, at the time?
I mean, so that was kind of the approach I took, though. You know, at the time I was still a competitive bodybuilder, And I looked at it as like, obviously I need to change. I need to heal for myself. I need to grow. I had a show picked out. I was going to compete for another 3 or 4 more years. And I was like, I'm done. Like, because I know that I could go into prep mode and put the laser focus on and just bury my pain and never change. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to retire and I'm going to face this. And I'm going to have to process all this pain and all this emotion because something needs to get better. Something needs to happen on the other side. I didn't know how it was going to happen or what way I was going to go about it, but I was going to face this head on. And the same thing with like the dating. It's been 3 years and I've dated for a total of 3 months because I was like, I'm not going to get under someone to get over someone. I'm not going to fill that void with something else. Like, I am going to suffer, face my shadow work, and deal with this to come out better on the other side, and that was my plan from day one.
Amazing. What I want to ask you, what are you doing? All of this, you've got all this knowledge. What are you doing now? There's a lot of growth and a lot of things that you're looking at doing. Like we were talking before, you kind of mentioned it already. Like, this like $14 million like investment blow through that was supposed to, this new wellness center and all these great investments. What's up and coming? I saw you just dropped an app, and I know you were mentioning retreats and some other cool stuff coming out.
Yeah, I'm just trying to reinvent myself again. And the investors walked away last year after like almost 2 years, 2 months out of 2 years under contract. So that was kind of a, what you think you have this secure life set up, or at least for 3 or 4 years until the money ran out. And if it didn't work, it went upside down. But I love the personal training. I love the connection and being able to truly make a difference in people's lives. But there's only so much money you can make. And as you know, being in the service industry, the man hours you put in is what you get. And there's only one of you. So I was trying to expand of what do I go bigger on that. So I got the opportunity to launch an app, and I've put a lot of time and effort into that over the last 6 or 7 months. But my real focus with the app is I want to get into, I like to call it life enhancement coaching. I hate life coaching, the life coaching term. So it's so generic.
Yeah.
So life enhancement coaching, where like we do functional nutrition, we do your training, we do your mindfulness coaching, everything to just try to make you a better version of yourself. So really high ticket coaching. And that's kind of like the app. There's, you can either buy membership to the app, and, it's like $50 a month, and you get your custom workout and training. And I have a drip feed series where I give you all this type of information, or I have my higher ticket coaching where you really work one-on-one with me. We get, weekly Zoom calls to check in and really hold you accountable to things.
Yeah.
So I have that going on. And then as time has kind of elapsed over the last couple of years and through my healing journey, I realized that we need more spaces to help out with the mental health. And one of the ways of going about that is, especially for men, is, men don't feel like they're allowed to be vulnerable. They're not allowed to talk about their pains. We're not allowed to have emotions. We just have to stuff them in, pull our pants up, as they say, and just keep trudging forward.
Yep.
So another friend of mine who kind of has the same mindset, we've talked about trying to get together and do like some men's retreats. It could be like 4 days. You come out someplace, you fly out, we get a cook, chef to cook all your meals. I'll teach you healthy habits in life. We do some stuff like breath work, meditation, cold plunges, ways to challenge you, help you become more present, and give you truly just a safe space to open up and talk about issues and feel like you're part of a community. So I want to start getting those together. And then my vision of my facility has also kind of adapted to more of a wellness space instead of like a high-end functional training space. There'll still be, the personal training stuff with all the Neufit and all the latest technology and all the biohacking modalities out there, rejuvenative medicine. But I've got addicted to yoga and breath work. So I really want to implement those things. So a space where like we have hot yoga, we have meditation, we have breath work classes, float tanks, potentially doing things like ketamine treatments and stuff like that in a space. So truly a center, mind, body, and soul to make the best version of yourself. So I'm taking off to another state, selling my house, uplifting my life, and creating a fresh start for myself.
So cool. You have to give up something to get something. That's how that law of abundance, and that's how it all works. So I love it.
Yeah. And it's been a fortunate time where fortunate and unfortunate, where like the last 6 or 7 months, a lot of things in my professional life here in LA have just completely disintegrated, but it's kind of like the universe telling me now it's time.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you earlier, like all of a sudden all these little opportunities start coming out, and this person hits me up like, oh, we want to do this with you, and we think, and I'm just like, and it's like the devil like trying to like keep me in my comfort zone.
Yep.
Because it's the thing, like I'm comfortable where I am right now. I have a home, I make enough money doing what I do that I could just milk this out. But comfort doesn't produce change, and doesn't produce passion. And
Yeah.
I'm not passionate about, I'm not impacting enough people's lives doing what I'm doing right now. And then that's the most important thing for me at this point in my life. I want to make a greater impact on more people's lives than I can.
That's so good. Yeah. I mean, go ahead, get the contract, do whatever, go work another 3 months, make $100,000. That's someone's dream to hear if you could do that.
Right.
They'd be so happy. What are you talking about, Brad? Like logistically, if you look back at your life though, you never did anything what people told you to do. Your family said, go to college. You said, no, I'm going to do this.
Right.
So, and I was, again, when you align with your truth and you know that not to be true, then you're just leaking energy. You're just draining
Right.
who you really could be.
Yeah.
So
That's funny. I actually had a Facebook memory pop up today from 11 years ago, and it said, I have so many major decisions in my life to make right now. I'm not sure which direction to go, but I know the only direction I want to go for is what's going to give me the most amount of happiness for the longest term. And it's funny because like I'm in that same situation now where it's like, as much as I want this new move, there's also that comfort that's like holding me back, and these other opportunities, which I know are great financially and potentially could lead to something, but what's going to bring me the ultimate happiness?
Yeah.
And it's just so fitting that like that popped up today, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of one of those like aha moments, especially because I have this woman that has an offer on my house, and it's like I'll probably have an answer by the end of the day today whether or not it's getting sold and I'm really making this move or not. So it's life is funny how it kind of throws you what you need. You just got to open your eyes enough to see the signs.
yeah, big time. Really quick, I want to just talk to you a little bit about just your yoga flow, and because I noticed again, even myself, like Brad Rowe, bodybuilder, like what's he doing yoga? Bodybuilders don't do yoga, and so can you talk about just why has that been so transformational for you, and why you're starting to incorporate that and the breath work? And I'm really just curious.
Yeah, so yoga. When I retired from bodybuilding, I'm just one of those competitive people. I'm like, I need something to push myself in. So my goal was I wanted to get back to being the athlete I was in college. I wanted to try to beat all my combine numbers, my 40-yard dash, my vert, all that stuff. I stayed really athletic even when I was big. So I'm like, this is going to be a smooth transition. So first couple months, I'm, doing some sprint work, things like that, shooting around, playing hoops. And one day I went out to go play basketball and went to go jump to grab rim, and I ruptured my quad tendon. And so that put an end to being an athlete. The surgical repair kind of took a downturn, and I had this nerve that got trapped in a suture in the knee.
Oh, no.
And for 8 months, I kept telling the doctor, I'm like, I'm in extreme pain. Something's wrong. He's like, oh, no, it's amazing. I'm like, listen, I'm a tough bastard. Like, I know what pain is. Like, this is not right.
And you had the Neubie too. You were
right. I was doing it. Like I made this recovery my job. Literally, like I bought a hyperbaric chamber. I got all red light therapy. I spent thousands of dollars on peptides and growth hormone, everything. Like I did everything under the sun to make this, because I was like, I'm gonna blow this recovery out of the process.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set the standard, because I was working with some professional athletes at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna be that guy that creates that protocol that gets guys back faster.
Yep.
And that didn't happen, because that nerve, it just laid down so much scar tissue around the area, because it just kept sending this inflammatory response.
Yeah.
Finally, after 8 months, we found it and we got it quelled. But at that time, all the damage was done. Like my quad tendon itself is like 1.5 inches thick of just scar tissue everywhere. So it creates this severe patellofemoral syndrome. Everything's just all thrown off. So a year into rehab, I could finally like squat down with body weight without like wanting to scream. That's just like how painful this has been. And I was like, let me try yoga. I'll just incorporate it like 2 or 3 times a week to help out with mobility. So one of my girlfriends dragged me to a Bikram class, and it kicked my ass. And I walked out and I was like, I love this. You know, so like my reason to getting into yoga is because I'm crazy and I need to push myself. Yeah. So it's like I found that thing that I can challenge myself every day on. No matter how good you get at yoga, there's still these small little tweaks, these little movements that just make you push yourself harder and harder. You know, we talk about all the health benefits of like sweating that much. I'm dropping like 4 to 6 pounds of sweat every single class in a hot yoga room. Mm-hmm. So we're detoxifying our bodies. And then the mindfulness practice of it. You know, I have a monkey mind. My brain does not shut off ever.
Me too.
And through a majority of a yoga class, I'm just focused on breath and movement. And I don't have that cell phone near me because you're not allowed to have your cell phone in your room. So it's like an hour and a half of my day, which I do like doubles most days, where I get to shut this thing off, I get to push this thing, and I get to keep that stupid handheld device not near me. So that's my escape. So after the first like couple of sessions, like I'm going to try to do 30 classes in 30 days. Then like 20 days went by where I'm like, I'm going to shoot for 60. And then I was like, I want to go for 365 classes in 365 days. I ended up destroying it. I got like 426 sessions in 365 days. And that included me traveling a lot too. So I was doubling up so much. Wow. So yeah, yoga just became my addiction. And I've seen so many benefits. My mobility's gotten so much better. You know, my ability to really center myself and become still, because meditating for me is just so hard. Like I've tried every meditation thing in the world. And I'm just like, nope, doesn't work. But at least in there where you get so worked up that all you can do is just focus on your breath, you can shut everything else off and just be still in that moment. So that's why I got addicted into yoga.
So good. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I needed to hear that myself because I've done yoga. And like you said, it gets competitive because I have a lot of just stiffness and just from not doing a lot of mobility work. Right. And doing the Bikram is my favorite because it's the hot. Yeah. And yeah, I'm like doing like a simple position like this, but I can't cross my arms like everyone else is doing. I'm like,
like
yeah, I can't do it. So like, it's that new challenge, like you said.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. I want to wrap things up. This has been amazing just to really dive deep into who you are. I feel like I could even probably do a part 2 with you. But before I do, just anything else I want to ask you actually some final round questions, but anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, man.
We're good.
All right, let's do some final. I used to call these lightning round questions, but they're not lightning round responses. So now I call them final round. I'm curious, what were a choice or some choices that you made that you think made you who you are today?
Just believing in myself. You know, that's the biggest choice of who I am today. You know, I was very fortunate to have this unique upbringing in a family where like my mother was that selfless, you know, you have to provide and be stuck in a dead end job. And my dad was the dreamer. So I kind of got this unique combination of both. And I've always just kind of been able to rely on myself and bank on myself and you know, never have fear about failing because I knew that I was in charge.
Wow. And that's probably why you are the entrepreneur kind of guy that you are, the creator. Yeah. You're always creating and doing.
Right.
You're obviously such a huge force, I think, in the wellness and just health, mind, body, soul world. Who inspires you?
You know, like Tony Robbins is like God to me, you know, as far as like his ability to connect with people. I've been fortunate to go to seminars and he is just such a powerful presence and his whole approach to everything, you know, he's like the ultimate life coach, you know, knows everything, nutrition, training, you name it, biohacking, mindfulness practice. So he's kind of like the guy that I've always kind of looked up to.
Yeah. Tony, I always say, like, when I was 18, I was lost. I graduated high school, didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. All my friends are going to these high-end colleges, and I picked up the book, Awaken the Giant Within, and it, like, completely changed my life. And that was when I really got into personal growth and personal development, and Tony was a huge impact, still to this day. So, yeah I love that. I'm a big reader. Are there any books for you, or I'm not sure if you're a big reader as well, but are there any, or do you do a lot of audio or podcast? Is there anything that you consume a lot, or if there was a book, is there anything that you've read that you're like, man, you guys should go out and read this changed my life?
Yeah, I've read about 2 years ago, I finally made that commitment to myself to start reading again, and it's one of my favorite things of my day. I do my reading when I go on my treadmill. So I got my dog on a treadmill next to me for 30 minutes, and I read because I can't sit down and be still. Audiobooks just go in ear, one ear out the other.
Yeah, same for me.
What are some of the most impactful books? Humble the Pullet Unlearned is just like it's all these short little excerpts. It's a fun read, but it's just something that just reminds us of all the things that we just need to be reminded of at all times. So I think that's a really great book, about helping through mindset and everything else. But again, it's a really fun read, really easy. One that really resonated with me was, this is random, the 5 Languages of Love.
That's a great one.
Yes.
It's simple, actually.
Right.
But it's like if you actually did the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you don't realize like how much better your relationships with everybody in your life, whether it be your significant other, your parents, your children, coworkers, whatever, just understanding what people's love languages are and how they process things, I think is one of the most intricate things in the world. I finished reading that after my divorce, and like I literally text my ex-wife, I'm like, I've been with you for 10 years and I have no idea what your love language was. And she's like, well, it was service, and you're a service person anyway, so you at least got that right by default, Yeah, that was an absolutely amazing book. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
I'm going through that one right now.
Yeah.
So good.
It's a read it over and over and over again. It's one of those things I'd read 2 pages, like, all right, I got to go back and read this again, just to get through. But yeah, that was a really impactful book as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because like you said, I'm a doer too. So like I provide for my wife. I do this, and then I later realize her love language is quality time. Like I don't care that great. You have you provide for us. I don't care.
Right.
I want quality time with
you.
Like that's what she wants.
Yeah.
So it's such an easy one to overlook. People miss that one.
I literally bought like 30 copies of that book and just gave it to like everybody of my friends. Like, you need this. You need this.
Yeah. Yeah. Last 2 questions. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
You're a biohacker, but you don't need to be a biohacker. We have the Neubie back here, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious for you, like on a regular basis, are there hacks or just practices or rituals like gratitude journaling, 3 hours of yoga? Like what is a regular thing that you do on a kind of consistent basis?
Every single morning, my day starts out with, I do a little breath work, for like a 12-minute, even just a basic like Wim Hof thing. So I bought this cheap infrared sauna thing. I hop in there and I'm in it for about 45 minutes, and I'll do my breath work and I'll do some meditation. And then I go directly in a cold shower. And that's every single day. That's how I start my day. I am fortunate. I have a PMF and crystal mat that I throw on my recliner. So if I'm at home at night and I'm just like watching TV, I'll put on some of the settings there, whether it be help fall asleep or help rejuvenate. And I am very fortunate that I have a hyperbaric chamber, and at least a couple times a week I jump in that for like 90 minutes.
Yeah. That's a good one.
But those are all, those are all things that take money. But cold shower, some breath work, a little bit of meditation every day. I can't get into journaling. I've tried. I can't even read it just hurts to write. As we get older, we get so like everything's on our phones and laptops.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to write and I know that's something that I probably really need to get out there because, as they say, if you want to learn about the world, you read books. If you want to learn about yourself, you journal.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a good one. I mean, but even like the 5-minute journal, I don't know if you've ever done that one, the gratitude journaling, like that takes you literally like, it's like write down 3 things you're grateful for, and you can just be boom, done. It's not even really journaling. Yeah. So I love that. I actually just started doing cold showers again, and the way I motivated myself was doing the sauna first. So I just started doing that. So I jump in my Therasage, and then I go and I do the cold shower for like 3 minutes, and it's been a game changer. So yeah, I love that. Last but not least, tell people where they can find you, connect with you. I know you're going to the soft side, so maybe you don't want people to connect with you. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But you got the Front Row app, so that people can connect with you there. But yeah, tell people where they can find you, learn more about you, and just see what you're up to.
Social media, Brad B. Rowe on Instagram. Everything you can find through there. My website, Front Row app, everything's on there. So best place is Brad B. Rowe on Instagram.
Awesome. Brother, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate you.
I truly appreciate you. Thank you.